Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Erica, and thanks for tuning in. Happy Monday. I hope all is well. I am here to do my weekly review of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Of course, this is season 16, episode 16, and it was called Chicken and Waffles. Guys, we are actually at the end of this season. I think they only have one more episode, but I will say that this particular episode was really good. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. That hasn't happened too much in this season, but I can say this was a good episode. Now, before I get started, I know you guys hear a little background noise. Please, I apologize about that. I wanted to get my video out. Unfortunately, my grass is being cut. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't tell anyone to stop cutting the grass because of the simple fact that I'm doing a video. So I hope you guys don't mind. It's like right outside the window, so it's probably very pronounced and you can probably hear it like really well. Please ignore that. I am so sorry, but again, I just want to get my video out. So let's get started. So the scene opens up. Of course, Shamia is at the hospital with her daughter Shia, her oldest daughter Shia, and her youngest daughter Shiloh. Well, we know from the previous episodes that Shiloh had gotten really sick. What happened, I think her husband Gerald called her and said that their nanny or their nurse had actually, left Shiloh in a very extremely cold room with no clothes on. Shiloh was freezing cold, and Gerald was really upset about that. So Shamia said when she got back from Grenada, she actually had strep throat. So of course she was concerned because she did not want Shiloh to come down with strep throat, especially with her having a compromised immune system. So, of course, I think they took her. We saw Dr. Harmon, Shiloh. Dr. Harmon went through the checkup and she actually tested Shiloh for strep throat. And she said the test was negative. And although Shamia was concerned about her breathing or her respiratory issue, Dr. Harmon assured Shamia that Shiloh was okay. So that was good news because we know that Shamia is always concerned about Shiloh's health. We know that Shiloh, from the moment we were introduced to Shamia as a housewife, we know that her youngest daughter does have some health issues. So it was good to know that Shiloh was okay. So we move on to the next scene, and of course we see Phaedra with her children. We're very familiar with the Prince and Mr. President. Of course we know, and that's Aiden and Dylan. We were introduced to Aiden and Dylan. Aiden was born in season 3 of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and Dylan was born like at the end of season 5, but we weren't introduced to him until season 6. So, it's good to see that they have grown up and they're doing well. They're teenagers now. And that's good. It's always good when we can see the family and we can see the children grow up. We love that. I know I do. So it was good to see them and good to see Phaedra actually interacting with her boys. Phaedra is at her best when she's interacting with them. We see a softer side of her. We see her in mommy mode, and I actually like seeing Phaedra like that. I really do. So during that time they were talking and they were discussing, like what they want to do when they grow up. Dylan wants to get into fashion. Of course, Aiden's like, he wants to be the money man. So Aiden was like, he will be Dylan's manager. Phaedra went on to tell us that Dylan likes clothes. He really likes fashion, but Dylan is a little short like his mom for now, and he could not fit some of the clothing. Dylan wanted just a pair of bell-bottom pants or jeans, and he couldn't find them in his size. So Phaedra told him normally when that happens, you will have to sort of make your own clothing. Well, Dylan took it seriously. Someone bought him a sewing machine and Dylan learned how to make a pair of pants. And so now, Dylan wants to make clothing. He wants to make joggers. Shout out to Sheree, but hey, Sheree, Dylan may have you beat because Dylan is already, ahead of the game. He's not only making his clothes, but he's getting ready to now present it to, some people in Atlanta. Even at his young age, I think Dylan is only about maybe 13, 12 or 13. And so he seems to be, hey, coming along really well. So Phaedra told him that I think she invested in a clothing store or boutique called The Vault. They actually sell clothing, but they also sell like fur coats and stuff like that. So they're having an event. So Phaedra told Dylan, I will, basically I'll set it up and then you can present some of your fashions at the vault, their fashion show and their slash pop-up shop. So that was good. So I love that Phaedra is investing in her children. She sees their dreams. She's not just telling them to go to school and get an education. She's also allowing them to sort of live out their passion. And that is always good when you have parents like that. I know, growing up, we were just told to get our education, go to college and get a job. It wasn't about your dreams and your passion. So sometimes you kind of get lost in the shuffle because you have to kind of figure out what you really want to do. Where Dylan is already just a teenager. I think, like I said, he's only about 13 years old, and he's already figured out that he wants to get into fashion. And Phaedra not only has the collateral, she's pushing him in that direction, but she also has the collateral to sort of help him get that done. So that was a good scene. The next scene, we saw Kelli with an eye. She was dressed and ready to go to court. She's ready to go to her divorce hearing. Kelli was dressed in all white. She was ready to sign those papers. Thank you, Usher. I'm ready to sign those papers. Yeah, she was ready. And so she goes to court. You can see she had her little crew with her. I know her friend Lamont was there and some other people. Well, production showed 4 hours later on the screen. They came out. They were talking about it was such a disaster. It was horrible. We didn't really know why. But then when Kelli was at home, she was sitting on her couch. She looked a little somber. She looked a little sad and depressed and kind of down. Shamia came over and, she was like, hey, friend, what's going on? And Kelli told her the truth. Kelli said that they locked her ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, Mark, up because he refused to pay child support, or he had not paid the back child support. Kelli had told us, now Kelli did tell us in previous episodes about how he was and he refused to take care of the children. He did not want to pay child support. So we already know what kind of guy he is, but the judge apparently decided to lock him up for those reasons. And I think Kelli just wanted it completely over. I think she was really sad because she wanted the outcome to be different. She just wanted everything to be done and complete. She wants to be completely, she wants all ties severed with her soon-to-be ex-husband. I'm not sure if they are actually still married today, but as of this episode, which is episode 16, they are still married. We may find out later that the divorce was finalized, but as for now, they are still married. So Angela called Kelli on the phone, and Angela asked her how things went. Of course, Kelli was saying that she was kind of telling her it didn't go the way she wanted. She's still married. And, Angela was like, oh, wow, I'm sorry to hear that. And then the phone call between them was very quick. It was very short. I think Angela just wanted to check on her. And you could tell Kelli just really didn't feel like regurgitating or telling the story over and over and over again. Excuse me. And so with that said, they were talking to Shamia. And so Shamia was like, oh, well, that was really nice of, Angela to call. And that led to a conversation of Shamia asking Kelli, has she spoken with Brit? Now, Kelli says she has not spoken with Brit since Grenada. And that's like a cause for the pause moment. Kelli and Brit's friendship has somewhat fallen by the wayside. We know that. I can only look at the situation from how I would do things. To me, it looks as if Kelli and Brit really aren't friends. Because if they were friends and your friend is going through something major like that, even if my friend and I had had a falling out or an argument or something, I would probably at least reach out via text or something and say, hey, I'm praying for you, or if you need anything, give me a call. I know this is a tough time for you, but please know that you're in my thoughts, okay? Well, Brit didn't do any of that, and Kelli is pissed about it. Kelli had a whole confessional about how she was there for Brit doing the stuff with Kenya, and now, hey, Kelli is like, I'm done with her. And I do understand that a lot of people are, they're supporting Brit online. They're saying, Brit isn't wrong. If you and your friend are beefing or whatever. And, I think a lot of people think that Kelli was sort of two-faced with Brit because she really sort of took everyone's side about the whole charity stuff and didn't really come clean with Brit about what she owed or what actually happened. And I can understand that too. I can see it from both sides, but I think we can only look at it like how we would do things. I thought that they had kind of, well, we know from the show that of course they're still beefing, but they did have a good conversation in Grenada. So based on the conversation they had in Grenada, if I were Brit, I probably would have just reached out. You don't have to be best friends with her, but if I were Brit, I would have reached out. So Kelly's just left with a bad taste in her mouth. But like I said, at the end of the day, I just don't think that they're really, really good friends the way they said. They're not BFFs. I think they just came onto the show as the newbies and they decided to like link up and try to be friends. So, of course, the ladies get an invitation to Phaedra's event, and it's called the Black Glove Fashion Show and Pop-Up Shop. So you saw them kind of, you know, they had like a little montage, and you can see, I think, Brit got the invitation, or a couple of them got the invitation to that. So the next event, it was like a dual event. I'm going to do it not necessarily in the appropriate order, but I'll tell you, I'll break it down. So Kelli had an event. She was sponsored by Williams and Sonoma, or Williams Sonoma, and she had a cooking event. So it was like a cook-off. Kelli was doing chicken and waffles, and she was going to cook off against Charles Oakley. Of course, we saw like a scene from, they probably had filmed it previously, and they had agreed to do this, to have this cook-off. So Kelli has an event. She has Drew, Angela, and Phaedra coming to her event. Well, Brit decided to have an event at her house. She decided, well, not an event, but she just invited Portia and Cynthia over to her house for light drinks. Brit said that she took Phaedra's advice. Phaedra gave good advice. So she decided to invite Portia and Portia and Cynthia over to her house while Kelli had her event. Now, the Williams Sonoma event was really, really, really nice. You know, of course, like, you know, they had everything set up. The girls were sitting there and watching them cook. Charles Oakley was in his element. I thought that was really, really nice. So again, I think they were making banana Foster waffles and chicken. So the girls were waiting to be fed. Now, Drew and Phaedra said that Charles Oakley's food was really, really good. You know, Charles was in his element. And, you know, Drew said it kind of reminded her of her grandmother and how she cooked. I think, you know, Drew grew up in Chicago, so she named the street. And you could tell Charles had that sense of pride on his face. Charles doesn't really get excited or smile about too much, but he was actually excited, you know, when she said that. You could tell that he just had a sense of pride about that. Now, during the event, this man, random guy, walked up to Angela and said, you know, I own this restaurant and I have some information on your husband. I have a word for you about your husband. Your husband is cheating on you. He had another woman at my restaurant. You can tell he was a random guy. You already saw him standing in the background, because when they have these events, I'm sure they put out little promotions and say, hey, the Real Housewives of Atlanta is filming, you're welcome to come to this event, whatever. You can see the group of guys standing in the background. Well, he just randomly approaches Angela, and you can tell she was pretty shaken by what he said. She did not like it, and she was taken aback. Charles did not hear it. And some people were saying they don't know how Charles couldn't have heard it, but that's very possible. Charles is a basketball guy. He's not a reality show person. So Charles is aware of his surroundings. You know how Charles is with the attitude. He's very much aware of his surroundings, but he knows that the ladies are filming, so he probably doesn't try to incorporate himself in every conversation. If Angela tries to get his attention and pull him into something, then yes, he will probably come in, but not, you know, the way we think. Like, you know, I'm sure, like, you know, he probably was like really focusing on the cooking and just watching the people and making sure that the people were enjoying the food and just sort of taking in the whole event. So Angela, like I said, he did not hear that. I'm sure if he heard that, he would have responded. That scene would have gone a lot different. And so Kelli, I think her security sort of took the guy out. That's how you know it's like crazy, because you're making a scene. They're filming a scene, but this guy, random guy, is also making a scene, which I thought was so stupid and silly and foolish. But this is reality TV, and those things kind of happen sometimes, especially on the black shows. I don't know why, but it's always, this happened on Married to Medicine and the Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's always someone coming into their event, or coming around and dropping this bomb. And it has nothing to do, it's always a random person. So, Brit, like I said, Brit, Cynthia, and Portia were, at Brit's house chilling. They were drinking. Now, Brit was in the process of, telling them about what happened between her and Kelli. She was saying that the glam squad that they were using, Brit did say she was using Kelly's glam squad. Kelli offered it, but then the glam squad sort of turned on Kelli and was kind of telling Brit what Kelli was saying. That is probably true. That does happen a lot of times. That's why you have to be careful who you have working for you, because everyone that works for you is not always loyal to you. They want to get paid, but sometimes they're just there, especially in that in that business, they just want to get the business. And so I'm sure it takes time to actually build up trust with some of these people. So Kelli was telling them about that. And then I'm sorry, not Kelli, Brit was telling Portia and Cynthia about the whole glam squad thing. They don't even agree with that. Portia and Cynthia don't believe in sharing glam. So that was kind of like a no-no for them, but they're just listening because they know that Brit and Kelli are newbies and they really don't understand how the game works. So Brit also said that, hey, Shamia shared some text messages that she had with Portia, and Brit actually relayed the story, and Portia knew that Shamia did share these particular text messages because Portia said that these are things that her therapist told her to do. So sort of, Portia was able to confirm that, yes, no one would know that she did share it with Shamia. So Shamia did share it with Brit. So Brit, hey, so Portia had to deal with that. She had to eat that, yeah, my BFF is talking to other people about me. So basically, you could tell Portia was pissed. So Portia she actually told Brit, basically handle it the way you want to. And we'll just leave it there. That can mean a number of things, but that's what Portia told her. So during that time, once they left the other event, Phaedra got in her car. She couldn't wait to call Portia and tell Portia about what happened with Charles. Now, you know that everyone has been saying that Charles is a cheater. Phaedra kept alluding to the fact that she knows Charles. She never knew Charles to be married, although she knew Charles long before he actually got married. But everyone has sort of been alluding, this whole season has set up that Angela and Charles really don't have the marriage that they say they have. He doesn't wear his ring, he's cheating, they know Charles to be this, that, and the other. So with that being said, Phaedra, like I said, she told Portia she dropped the bomb. Cynthia act like she was getting ready to flip off the couch, oh my God, what in the world? And that's what actually happened there. And so, Portia act like she was concerned. She was like, oh, wow, I know Charles, threw the rice on top of his head, or I knew Angela flipped out. But the point of the matter is, anyone would be mad hearing that about your spouse. But they didn't seem to be that concerned. They were more concerned with the tea, more so than, oh my God, some random guy really did this. I think as housewives, they should sort of get angry. I know, like I said, they invite people, but they should be getting angry that these stunt queens are coming in there, doing this at their events all the time. I think that's just way, way too much. So we'll see the fallout of that, as time goes on, because we know Angela is going to definitely handle that. So let's see. Oh yeah, so like I said, we'll find out more about all of that. And from what we heard, Angela did say that this person was actually paid to do that, but we'll see that next week. So I would just wanted to make sure that I covered all of that. I didn't want to leave anything. Didn't want to leave anything out, because we know that that's like a big piece of the finale. So Phaedra was getting ready for her event. She called Portia. I'm sorry, Portia called her and said, "Hey, I'm not coming to your event. My cousin Londi passed." We all know, if you watched Portia's Family Matters, her cousin Londi was from her father's side, and Londi was very intricate part of the show Portia's Family Matters. I'm so sorry that Londi passed. I don't know what happened, but I remember Londi very well. And at that time, we had even found out that Portia had done some things to Londi. Dennis had revealed that Portia did not want Londi working for Dennis anymore, and a lot happened with their relationship. But unfortunately, she passed, and I'm so sorry. And I hope that, Portia and Londi were able to make up or make amends before she passed away. But Phaedra said she totally understood, and that was fine. And so the girls, they start arriving at Phaedra's event. They were dressed in all black with their gloves. Cynthia looked really nice. Of course, Cynthia is always very classy. We saw Kelli. Phaedra makes a lot of references to Kelly's body and her being short, but Phaedra and Kelli are probably neck and neck in height. I don't understand Phaedra's whole thing, and I've heard some other YouTubers and content creators saying the same thing, but you can't get around it. We're all sort of being repetitious or repeating the same things at this point. Phaedra, you're not 5'9", you're not 5'11", you're about 5'1" yourself. Kelli is probably 5 feet even. What is she, an inch shorter than you? Like, I'm in there. Like, I'm only 5'2", so I know exactly what that is, but I can't imagine someone who's my height or maybe like an inch taller than me talking about, oh, you're super short and you're this and that. I mean, we're right there together, so I don't understand that. But the girls start arriving. Angela arrives. Cynthia was kind of trying to get the tea, from Angela about what happened. And, Angela, she is going to tell them, like I said, a little while later. But right now, they're just sort of coming in. Phaedra said that Drew said that she was running late, but Phaedra said she's going to lock the door. Now, I believe that Phaedra locked the door on Drew on purpose, because Phaedra could have held things up for a few minutes just to allow Drew to come in, but she's making the point. Phaedra doesn't like Drew. She's doing that against Drew because of Portia. So we saw Drew outside, and she could not really get into the event until basically the fashion show part was over. She couldn't even really enjoy the fashion show because Phaedra kept her locked outside. I'm all for being on time. I'm a person that I was raised that way. I'm always on time. I'm hardly ever late for anything. I can't even remember the last time I was late to an event, if ever, to be honest. But there probably has been a time, but I'm telling you, it's probably some type of serious or emergent situation. But I'm just not a late person. But I do feel like if I'm hosting an event and I know there's a way to get that person in, I would do it. But like I said, Phaedra did that on purpose. So anyway, the fashion show was really cool. We see Dylan and Owen coming down the actual runway. The fashion seemed okay. They were, also modeling the fur coats. People were shopping after the event, and that's when Drew came in. So at that time, they were sitting around. Angela told the group that, she found out who this guy was. Her people got on it, and basically, this guy said that he was told to do it, or she kind of let them know, like, hey, my people love me. We found this guy, we went to him, we approached him, and he sort of told us what was really going on. So of course we're going to see their meeting in next week's episode with the guy, and he's going to reveal who actually told him to do it. He said he was paid to do it, but he didn't tell her who paid him to do it. So in the next episode, we see Angela saying, well, why would she do something like that? So she said she, alluding to, we don't know who the she is, but I'm sure maybe we'll find out next week. So again, they had, like I said, it was a really nice episode. It was a really nice event. Of course, Brit was there. Love Brit's bob. Brit's hair. I love Brit's hair. I think I've said that probably on every video. That's one of the things I love about Brit. Brit looked really cute with her bob. And Brit spoke to Kelli. She was like, hi, Kelli. Kelli was like, giving her like, I don't even know who this person is. Kelli never spoke to Brit. And Brit was, of course, that sets Brit off. Like, if you ignore Brit or you sort of like reject her, she sort of loses it. So I was like, okay, this is really getting ready to go left. So I wrote down here on my thing, hey, Kelli versus Brit. So they were like hurling insults at each other. That's what they were doing the entire time. I can go through some of them. Basically, Brit told Kelli, you're very insecure. That's why you always have a lot of people around you, or you have people sort of kissing up to you because you're very insecure. Kelli told Brit, because she was like, you're being passive aggressive. No, Kelli was like, Brit told Kelli she's being passive aggressive. Kelli was like, no, I'm just being aggressive. Kelli called Brit and her husband pill poppers. She said something about you being a pill popper and you and your pill popping roommate. She called Brit's husband a roommate. Brit alluded to the fact that Kelli may have been cheating during her marriage and that she had gotten rid of a few pregnancies and terminated a few pregnancies. Kelli and Brit were going there. Like, Kelli called she called Brit a whore. Basically, she called her, she said, you're a garden tool. And that's exactly what she said. And she didn't back down. So they were like going back and forth. Like Phaedra said, it was like a tennis match, like boop, 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 boop. Because they were going back and forth with the words. A lot was said between them, but you just had to like really hone into what they were saying, because it was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So they really, I don't think they have major secrets on one another, but they do know enough about each other to say these things. And they weren't backing down. Either one of them were backing down. So we know that this was the fallout of Brit, Edie, and Kelli's friendship, period. They are not friends at all. And that was really the end of the episode. I mean, Shamea tried to talk to Brit about, hey, you don't say these things, or you really should have been there for your friend, but Brit's not backing down. We see that Brit's not backing down. She's not backing away. However she feels about Kelli is how she feels. She doesn't even care how the other women feel about it. And Kelli's not backing down either. Kelli feels like, this girl is not my friend. She hasn't been there for me, and I'm not going to be nice to her at all. And that's how the episode ended. This episode, like I said, was really good, guys. If you haven't seen it, I hope I did a good enough job to tell you or to describe and to recap what happened. But if you get an opportunity, go and watch the episode. I guarantee you will probably really enjoy this particular episode. We are in episode 16. It's sad that it took us all the way to the end of the season to really enjoy any of these girls, but again, that was more like a classic Real Housewives of Atlanta episode. So I hope I did my due diligence. Like I said, I apologize about the noise, but thanks for hanging in there with me. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Like I've said it a million times, I am a new YouTuber. I know, and I follow a lot of the YouTubers and content creators, and I love them. I try to put my video out early because of course, we're going to have some of the same opinions, but I like to put my video out early, and then I like to see where they're coming from, to see, if they give me a different perspective on something, and hopefully, they get a chance to see my videos, and maybe they can see where I'm coming from, or they can agree or even disagree. So like I said, please like and subscribe this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you feel like you want to leave me a comment, I would greatly appreciate it. I love to hear from you guys. There is one person, shout out to LTV Productions. He also does his reviews of a lot of shows. Check him out. It's LTV Productions. He always leaves me a comment, and I really appreciate that, because that gives me like the motivation to not only just keep going, but also, like I said, I like to hear other people's opinions. I like to know whether they agree with me or even if they don't. There have been times that, especially with Married to Medicine, LTV Productions and I, we very rarely see eye to eye, but it's all love. And he will tell me, he will tell me his opinion, and he'll give me even a different perspective of certain things. And I hope that I'm doing the same for him. And I really appreciate him, but I appreciate all of the support that I've gotten over these past few months. So hang in there with me, guys. I want to do some other things. Of course, it just, if time permits, I will definitely, get it popping for you guys. But enjoy your day. Have a wonderful day. And I will see you next time.